Hi everybody, in this video we are going to continue to discuss about the diversity in the living world. In the previous video we studied about what is taxonomy. Okay, what is taxonomy? In that we said based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. Okay, based on characteristics, you have to remember this. Okay, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. So this process is called as what? Taxonomy. Okay, this process is called as taxonomy, which means based upon the characteristics we are grouping the organisms into different categories. The categories we are calling it as what? Taxa. So based upon the characteristics, whenever we are classifying the organisms, we are calling it as what? Taxonomy. Okay, so there is another word which we came across called as modern taxonomic studies. Okay, modern taxonomic studies. What do you mean by modern taxonomic studies? It is in the modern taxonomic studies we will be discussing about what? External, internal, along with the structure of a cell. External, internal, along with what? The structure of a cell, development, processes, and ecological information of organisms. Okay, organisms are essential and they form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. So here, modern taxonomic studies. Okay, modern taxonomic studies includes what? External, internal, along with the structure of a cell. Okay, cell development, along with the structure of a cell development processes and ecological information. We are calling this as what? Modern taxonomic studies. But here taxonomy means what? Based upon the characteristics we are grouping the organisms. That process of classification is called as what? Taxonomy. Okay. Here these are the 2 points which we have to keep in mind. Hence, we should remember that for taxonomy, what are we considering? Okay, what are we considering? Okay, we will see now. So, keeping those points about the taxonomy and modern taxonomic studies, we can say that the first point which we have seen, okay, characterization, okay, characteristics, okay, characterization, okay, characterization, then identification, okay, identification, then classification, okay, classification, and the next one. Okay, classification, and the next one is nomenclature. Okay, next one is nomenclature. All these processes, okay, okay, let us say that all these are what? The processes. Okay, all these are the processes which are required for the basic study of what? Taxonomy. Okay, for the basic study of taxonomy. So, what is important for the basic study of taxonomy? All these are important. Okay, all these are important. So these are the points we have to keep in mind. Okay, we have to keep in mind. So we have to keep in mind that taxonomy is not a new study. Okay, taxonomy is not a new study. It is there from ancient period, from long time. It is been there, but the only thing is we have applied this word. Okay, for classification of different types of organisms. Okay, based upon the characteristics we have grouped them. So we are using the word taxonomy, but otherwise taxonomy is not a new word. So if you are looking at the human beings, okay, human beings are using this word, or in their real life they are applying this word in their practical life. So how they are applying this in their practical life? If you are saying human beings, they are interested to know more and more about the various kinds of organisms. Human beings are showing it, which means we are always showing more interest, okay, to know more and more about various kinds of organisms. We love to know more about different types of organisms. So in this course of time, what happens with reference to what they uses? Why we show so much of interest? Why the human beings will be showing so much of interest to know about various kinds of organisms? Only to understand if there is any use from that particular organism. If it is a plant or an animal, when we will show interest to know more about that, when it is useful for us. So here, human beings are showing so much of interest to know more and more about the various kinds of organisms only with reference to what? Their uses. Based upon what? Their uses. If at all, if that organism is useful for the human beings. How it is useful? What is the benefit from that organism? Okay, so based upon that, human beings will be showing so much of interest. And likewise, if you see, in early days, human beings are also showing interest to know about these organisms based upon what? The sources. Okay, based upon the sources. Sources means what? On which we depend upon, the requirements that we depend upon. Okay, so what are those requirements? That like food, okay, clothing and shelter. These three are very important in any individual, for any individual. Okay, these three are they are the common basic needs, or let us say these are the common sources, important sources. So in early days, human beings will started to show so much of interest to know more and more about the important sources that are required. So what are the sources we are saying? Food, clothing and shelter are very important. So keeping this in mind, we can say that hence earliest classifications means from the beginning, previously, the classifications are based on what? The uses. Okay? Based on the uses of various organisms. Means what? In the early days, okay, in the old ancient period, these organisms are grouped, okay, are identified, are categorized, okay, based upon their uses. Based upon their uses. If they are more useful, they are being studied more. They are being studied more. So here, hence, we have to remember earliest classifications. Classification is what? Based upon the observable characteristics, we have grouped the organisms into different tags, we say, okay, into categories. Based upon what? Based upon their uses. Based upon their uses, these organisms are being classified and studied. So, human beings not only shows interest to know more about various kinds of organisms. Okay, they do not show interest only to know about various kinds of organisms, or let us say different kinds of organisms. Okay, different kinds of organisms and their diversities. This is not only this. Okay, human beings not only show interest to know about the different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationship among them. Okay, human beings are showing more interest to know about the relationships among the various types of organisms. That is what is important here. Okay, so human beings are not only interested to know about different types of organisms and their diversities, but also they are more interested to know about the relationship among themselves. What is the relationship between two different types of organisms? They are very much interested to know about that. So that the branch of study, okay, the branch of study which deals with the different kinds of organisms and their diversities and the relationships among them is called as systematics. Okay, it is called as systematics. So we have to remember the word systematics. So what do you mean by the word systematics? It is the branch of science, or it is the branch which deals with the study of what? Different kinds of organisms and their diversities and the relationship among the organisms or among them is called as systematics. The word systematics, okay, the word systematics is derived from Latin word, okay, systematics, it is a word that is derived from the word called as systema, okay, this is a Latin word, okay, it is a Latin word. The word systematics is derived from a Latin word called as systema. So what do you mean by the word or the meaning of systema? What is the meaning of systema? Systematic arrangement of organisms. Systematic arrangement of organisms is called as systema. So in simple we are calling as systematics. Okay, we are calling as systematics. So in systematics, what do we learn? What do we learn? We learn about different kinds of organisms and their diversities, and very important is relationships among them. That we are calling as systematics. Okay, that we are calling as systematics, and this word systematics is derived from what? The Latin word called as systema. So what do you mean by the word systema? It is the systematic arrangement of organisms. Okay, systematic arrangement of organisms. So Carolus Linnaeus used the word systematics or use this word systematics in his book called Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. So let us remember that Carolus Linnaeus, okay, used Systema Naturae. Okay, Carolus Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. This is a very important one, okay, which will be asked in objective also. So Linnaeus, okay, Carolus Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. And later on, okay, the scope of systematics, okay, enlarged, including what? The identification, nomenclature and classification. Okay, identification, nomenclature and classification are also included in the systematics. This is other point which we have to keep in mind. So let us remember that Carolus Linnaeus used, okay, Systema Naturae as the title of his publications, and later on the scope of systematics, okay, enlarged, including what? Okay, enlarged including means also included, okay, in systematics, that are identification, nomenclature and classification. And very important point that we have to keep in mind is that systematics includes evolutionary relationship between organisms. Okay, systematics includes evolutionary relationships. Okay, relationships between organisms. Okay, this is very crucial point that we have to keep in mind. Okay, between organisms, this is a very important point. Okay, in systematics, what else is being included means evolutionary relationships between organisms. How the organisms have evolved, what is the link between the organisms, okay, they will study in this, okay, systematics only. So that's why we have to remember that systematics includes even the evolutionary relationships between organisms. Okay, so let us remember, okay, all these points, and a very important point is about the systematics. Okay, what is systematics we have learned in this video. So remember the last point. Okay, in systematics, evolutionary relationships between organisms is also considered. Okay, Thank you so much.